Hello, everyone. Today we are here with Mr. Davis.
Hello, everybody.
Is there anything you would like to say before we get started?
Nothing really. Just thanks for having me on. Pretty much what everybody else says, I think.
My pleasure. Okay, we have narrator and writer questions for you, and we will
Hmm.
start with the narrator questions first.
Alrighty.
How did you come up with your channel name?
My channel name is actually my last name, just with Mr. put in front of it. And the reason behind that is I don't really like my first name, and I didn't want to put just my name out there. So I wanted it to sound intriguing and interesting, so I made it Mr. And then a fan of mine actually drew up the skull and the tuxedo and everything for the channel, so it kind of goes along with that now as well. So that's where it came from.
How did your persona come to be?
Um, it really ties in with the whole Mr. Davis thing. I wanted to be myself, but I also wanted to have a character. Like Mr. Creepypasta, he's more of a character, I think, than his actual personal self. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted to be a character and myself. So I think the persona kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? It like amplifies that. It's I get to be creative while being myself at the same time. So the skeleton in the tuxedo is kind of my persona, but it's also me in a way.
Do you have any future plans for your channel?
Yeah. Hopefully soon I'll be able to upload a lot more than I am now because my computer blew up not too long ago. It stopped working and I can't use it, so I can't upload anything good. But once I do get a new computer, it'll be 1 to 2 videos a week, and I've been saving this announcement for this interview, so it's kind of exciting. I'm launching a horror fiction podcast. It's going to be a once a month thing, and it's going to be around 2 hours long of just nothing but scary story and creepypasta narrations. I'm going to be doing some stories. Sociopathic Pasta is going to be doing some stories. I'm getting a lot of people into it. It's going to be really fun. I'm really excited about it.
How has narrating changed you and your life?
It's made me a more social person because I'm talking much, much more than I normally would, and it's also shown me that I'm good at something I never thought I was, and it kind of like unearthed a talent that I didn't know I really had.
Why did you start narrating?
Um, it's a nice little story. I tell it every once in a while, but when me and my fiance first got together, her little brothers came up to me and we started hanging out a little bit. And they're not like 5; they're like 10 or 11 now. And we would hang out, and I would sit down and read them these scary stories called creepypastas. And then I was like, you know what? Mr. Creepypasta's doing it on YouTube, so why don't I? So I say that they're the reason I started doing it.
What creepypasta do you want to narrate, but are having trouble doing so?
Um, for a while, it was No One House because it's my favorite creepypasta ever, and every time I would record it, my file would get corrupted or I'd lose it. But I eventually got that one out, and it's on Let's Read's channel now. But the one I want to do now is Psychosis, and that one's really hard because it's super duper long, and I hope I can get it out this year, sometime soon.
What creepypasta has made an impact on your life?
Definitely Eyeless Jack. The reason being that was the first creepypasta I ever heard. My fiance's little brothers, again, they were the ones that showed it to me. They showed me Mr. Creepypasta's narration of Eyeless Jack, and once I heard that, when I got home that night, I started reading tons and tons of creepypastas, and just ever since Eyeless Jack, I've been just drawn into creepypasta.
What creepypasta will you not narrate?
Um, Really anything that's like over the top violence and gore, anything that involves violence toward children, rape or sexual abuse, anything like that. I don't feel like it needs to be put into stories for shock value. and even if it plays a part in the plot, I don't think I'll touch it because it's too touchy of a subject, and I don't want to offend anyone out there who's had to go through that, and it's just not something I want to touch on.
All right, the next set of questions are to you as a writer.
All right.
How did you come up with your pen name?
Um, I came up with my pen name not too long ago, but my pen name, I don't think anyone knows, is actually Tate Blackwell. And the reason I came up with Tate Blackwell is because when I was conceived, that's a little gross, but anyway, when when I was in my well, I wasn't born yet. My dad wanted to name me Tate, and ever since I found that out, I absolutely love the name Tate. But I was named something else, so I figure I've held on to that name for this long. I might as well use it for something. So I decided to use it as my pen name. And the Blackwell thing is just something that kind of came to me. It sounds really cool when you put Tate and Blackwell together.
What creepypasta do you wish you had been the one to write?
No End House, without a doubt. Like I said earlier, it's hands down my number one favorite pasta ever. There's so many great things about it, and if I were the one to write that, I don't even know what I would do.
Who are your favorite creepypasta writers?
There's a couple that are on Reddit's No Sleep forum, which is Easy Misery and Max Aaron. They write really great stuff. Brian Russell wrote the whole No End House series. Matt Diermeski wrote Psychosis and a handful of other great stories. And of course, everyone knows who Vincent Vinicava is. He's also one of my favorites.
Where do you get your inspiration?
A lot of the times it's taken from real life situations. Like, I'm obviously not being chased around by demons or anything like that, but like I'll be at work and I'll think about I work the night shift, so I think about what would happen all of a sudden if some crazy lunatic drunk guy came in here. I was like, oh, I can write a story about that, or something will come like that. And sometimes I'll have an idea and I'll go to my fiance and I'll ask her what she thinks about it. We'll bounce it back and forth, and eventually I'll form an idea and I'll work off of that.
How has writing changed you and your life?
Very similar to narration, it showed me a hidden talent I didn't know I had, and it was an outlet for me when I was a young kid because I started writing it when I was started writing when I was 13, and then it was an outlet for me, and like it showed a talent, and I really feel like a lot of kids should get into it because it really helps go through certain times in people's lives, and it can help you get your emotions out there when you don't have somebody to talk to. So that's why.
Why did you start writing?
Started writing, like I said, when I was 13, and it was because of English class in ninth grade. We were learning about poetry, and in my free time, I read a absolute crap ton of Edgar Allan Poe's poems and stories, and I took him as a huge inspiration and started writing poetry. It was super, super depressing and super sad. It's really cringeworthy looking back on it, but it was somewhere to start.
Which story are you most proud of writing?
I've narrowed it down to two, which are two fairly new stories that haven't been released yet, but I'll be narrating them on my channel at one point in the future. The first one is Shadows of the Woods, and basically it's this dude. He goes up to his dad's cabin for a weekend by himself, and he finds this abandoned house in the woods, and it's I don't want to say too much, but it gets pretty freaky. It's like a creature feature kind of thing. And the second one I'm most proud of is my Chiller series, which is a sort of lost episode kind of pasta. It's about a kid, or not a kid. It's about a dude who finds a old VHS tape called Chiller: The Teeth from Beneath, and it's like a bootlegged generic version of Goosebumps, but it's super gory and it's super gross and super freaky. I'm really excited about getting that one out there too.
What is the earliest story you remember writing?
Um, I can't remember the first story I ever wrote, but I do remember the first poem I ever wrote way, way back. The first poem I ever wrote was about suicide. I don't know why, because I wasn't depressed. I wasn't even sad. I just felt, for some reason, when I was 13, I felt like poetry needed to be depressing and sad, so I wrote about the most depressing thing I could think about.
What story are you currently working on?
Right now, I'm actually working on a sequel to Shadows of the Woods, and very soon, once I get done with that, I'll be working on a sequel to the Chiller series as well.
Where do you see yourself going with your writing career?
It's kind of funny. A lot of my friends who write plan on writing novels or an anthology series turned into a book and things like that, but I really don't plan on writing a book or a huge anthology series or anything like that. I see writing to me more as an outlet, a creative outlet, and more of a hobby, really.
And we are on the last question for you.
Woo!
What is a fun fact about yourself?
Oh man, it took me forever to think of an answer to this one. Um, I have a very large DVD collection. Most of it consists of horror. Um, I have every single copy of Friday the 13th, including the 2009 remake, which I don't even think should have been made. But whatever. That's just me. My most recent addition to it was actually a documentary about Stan Lee, the creator of Marvel Comics and Spider-Man and things like that. So I've been collecting since I was around 15, and I have a little over 120 DVDs, I believe, right now.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy about that.
Well, is there anything you'd like to say before we wrap this up?
No, just thanks again for having me on. It was a fun, fun time and a great pleasure to be here.
Well, for anyone who hasn't already, there are some links to check out in the description down below. Make sure to go and subscribe and comment and show love and support. And thank you very much for joining me today.
And thank you for having me on.
And that's it for now. So bye, everyone.
Bye.